What is up? What is up? Welcome back to the Silver Surfers channel. Got a really interesting video for you guys today. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick this off. So I'm doing this video in regards to a recent video that was posted by Ontario 100 and NavyRob, where they went through a number of different obsolete notes, and one of those obsolete notes that they pulled up was this manual labor banknote, which I also have a copy of. So I bought this note a number of years ago because it has a story behind it, and if you look at the vignette there, in the glass factory, you can see Elvis in the white suit right in the middle, blowing glass. So Elvis was alive back in 1836, apparently. Anyways, so this is a really neat banknote. It was to bring funding into the glass house out of Philadelphia. And the interesting thing is I bought this, and then a number of years later, I got into collecting historical flasks. And doing my research and history review of these, I realized that the same glass maker of this flask here was the individual that signed it right here in the bottom right, and that's Thomas Dyott, who was the owner at the time of Kennsington Glass House in Philadelphia. And this is from the early 1800s, mid 1800s, etc., who produced some of the most finest pieces of glass there is. And so doing my research, I was able to, again, make the connection between the two, and I was just fascinated that not only did I have this note here, which was a bill essentially to raise funds for that glass house through the manual labor banking house, I also eventually got the flask. So this flask is, the categorization is a G114. G1 is for images of portraits, essentially, of people, mainly George Washington and a couple of other historical figures. But this piece of glass was blown around 1826 out of Kennsington Glass Works. And again, the owner of that at the time was Mr. Thomas Dyott, who was the individual who signed that note there. So what's really interesting is on the front, this is a very expensive flask, by the way, guys, in colors outside of aquamarine, which this is a nice green. They range to in the thousands. The cobalt blues, you're talking, $100,000 or so plus. But even in this color here, they're very expensive. And so on the face here, you have a beautiful eagle. I collect flasks with eagles. That's why I had to have this. And then the initials there, TWD, which stands for Thomas W Dyott. Again, the same individual that signed this banknote here in the bottom right, which is fascinating. On the back, you have a portrait of George Washington, and around the rim, it says General Washington. Really beautiful, beautiful impression. Look at this huge, fat pontille scar on the bottom here. And yes, you can see the price there. It is very expensive. But what makes this very historical, probably the most historical of all flasks, is the sides here. So you can see right here, it says glasswork. Well, on this side, you would flip it over. If I don't want to drop this here, nick it. It says Kennsington Glass, and it carries on to Works, Philadelphia. As I mentioned, that was a glass house that this came out of. But on this other portion right here, it's a little difficult to make out in the video, but it says Adams and Jefferson. And on this side, let me flip it to right here. It's a little difficult to read, but it does say July 4th, AD 1776. So this is labeled the Firecracker flask. And the reason why is because it was a commemoration flask that was blown in 1820s after the death of both our second president, John Adams, and our third president, Thomas Jefferson. So interesting story between those two fellows, completely different political party views. Argued with one another throughout our history, as you guys can go and learn about. But they both died, ironically, on July 4th in 1826, which was the 50th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. And so within hours of one another, too, by the way. Over their lifespan after office, they ended up becoming very good friends. And the rumor has it some of the last words on their deathbed were calling out one another's last names. And so very, very historical and very neat story behind it. But they blew that flask in, like I said, 1826 after the death of those second and third president in commemoration of it. But I just found this very fascinating to have both a banknote that was issued from the glass house, that I also have the historical flask too, that is probably the most, if not one of the most, if not the most historical flask ever. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down below, and until next time. And by the way, I'll leave the links as well of that video that between Ontario 100 and NavyRob. So check that out. But give me a subscribe, give me a comment if you don't mind, and until next time, Silver Surfer is out.